It moved from a business that mean they didn't recognize it to be one of the biggest players when it comes to, or if I'm right, the biggest player in the oil marketing industry. It has beaten most of the giants in the industry to become the reference point when it comes to oil marketing in this country. But how did they get there? And also how about maintaining that top rank in the industry? They've actually become the talk of town in terms of consumers when it comes to finished petroleum products. Yes, I think you're still guessing, but you've gotten it right. We're trying to understand the business module and also surviving in this space as an indigenous firm. On PM Express Business Edition, we are engaging the brain behind, or one of the brains behind, this company that has been the trailblazer in the industry, Star Oil Ghana. How did they get here? And how are they managing to stay on top? Mr. Philip Tieku is the Chief Executive of Star Oil Ghana, and he's my guest on PM Express Business Edition as we try and understand the module of this company, and could it be a flash in the pan, or indeed they will be there for a long while. So Tieku, thank you so much for joining us on PM
Thank
Express.
you, George.
It's been hard to catch. You were hard to get, if I could use that expression.
Yes, I know we've been trying to have this conversation over years now. Yes, but I think it's a good time to have this conversation. This year we turn #1. Sometimes you need to get the work done before you talk about it. So that explains the delay.
Can we say that was deliberate on your part?
Well, yes. When you are cooking the meal, you need to, keep your mouth shut. Get things done first, and then yes, I think being #1 is a good time to explain our model, and let the customers get to know the company more, and then also the rest of the population to understand exactly what Star Oil is doing. Yeah.
I've dug through your profile and a deeper understanding of the oil business, a deeper understanding of the accounting business, a deeper understanding of the banking business. Yeah. Do you think that these previous things has contributed to your success, if I can use that expression, of being behind this company and driving it over the years to this point?
Yes, no doubt. I mean, my previous training as a chartered accountant and working with a Big Four firm definitely comes in very handy when you are confronted with the challenges of a change management process. So it definitely would have played a role, no doubt about it. But I think when you look at the journey we've been on at Star Oil, there's no way this could have been achieved by just one individual. This has been a big teamwork effort. The product you are seeing today is a teamwork that has brought this to bear. And I think credit to a lot of the workers in Star Oil. The industry we play in has a lot of problems. We have a lot of illicit activities, etc. There's generally a thinking of quick money making in the industry. So to get the large majority of our workers to buy into this vision of becoming a low-cost, affordable fuel network, providing quality fuel as well, and not just low cost, but putting in measures that guarantee quality consistently. And ensure that the workers are playing by the rules and doing the right things that guarantee quality and affordability. I think it's credit to the rest of the team.
But I know you want to play it simple, but some will say that, yes, of course, every team has a captain, every team has a coach, every flock has a shepherd, and therefore the Mr. Tieku and then the shareholders behind also have played a critical role to drive this brand to this level.
Yes, that's definitely true. They always say that leadership is cause and everything is effect. So it's definitely true that leadership plays a big role in this. But I've always said that implementing what we've done in Star Oil anywhere else could have been a challenge. I've had a lot of cooperation since I became CEO 5 years ago from the rest of the team. The shareholders have been very supportive as well. Even the decision of our largest shareholder and the then CEO of the company to retire early and make me the CEO back in 2020. It's something you don't see in the industry. And when we talk about governance in the industry, it's one of the unique
because
situations.
He was a shareholder, then I stand
He was the shareholder,
yeah.
majority shareholder, CEO of the company at the time, decided that he would hand over to his finance manager to become CEO. It doesn't happen often in the industry, you know. It raises issues about, obviously, good governance. People in our industry, you find a lot of entrepreneurs start a company and they find it very difficult to transition from being entrepreneurs in the beginning of the company and handing over to, you know, people who are better qualified to run the company when it gets to a certain stage. So our story also reinforces the idea that sometimes entrepreneurs must do a self-introspection, look at where their business has gotten to, and where necessary, bring in people who can help turn around their fortunes or even scale up into the, you know, better.
I'm still trying to bring in where you have been, and I look at where you've been in. For the purposes of not promoting it, I'll mention it, but you have played a very critical role in other major players in this industry.
Yes.
And did that also play a part?
Yes.
In, not to say trade secret, because there are some companies who bar you that if I've worked at XYZ bank, I will not be allowed to. So has those things in those other companies or your marketing companies where you played a very crucial role also help you when you came here at Star as a finance person and now you are a CEO driving this brand?
Yeah, exactly. Those experiences from the past in terms of my work with PwC, which allowed me to have a broad spectrum of experience in banking, energy. So I had the benefit of working on some of those assignments that both in Ghana, the UK, and Nigeria. So it definitely contributed to my knowledge of the industry, no doubt about it. But transitioning from that environment into a private, locally held, more or less family company brings in different skills. You need to have different skills in terms of your way of thinking, your way of implementing change. So yes, you can have that background, but still, you know, fail in that journey if you don't bring other skills to bear. Just people management skills, understanding how people should be managed in a transition, in a change process, etc. Those are things that we take for granted, but are very important as well.
Whilst we celebrate your finance and accounting background, you also had deep stints in the oil marketing industry.
Yes.
A company that you work to take right now as Star Oil. So how did that also help us? So, I mean, since you are mentioning the other name, we can talk about that.
Yes, I mean, as working with PwC, I had consulting roles in a company like UBI, which became Puma today in Ghana. I was on the Shell assignment as well in Ghana here. So yes, those were the two main ones that I was involved in Ghana. Yeah, but I was also involved in Owando in Nigeria and in Owando trading in the UK. Yeah, but
driving this brand. I mean, you took over when everything was a little bit okay.
Yeah.
How easy, how difficult has it been in driving this brand from there to the number one now that everybody is now talking about you?
Yeah, I think I joined Star Oil in 2014. So I had 6 years of experience working as a finance director for Star Oil. So I had a lot of knowledge already in terms of Star Oil and the industry locally, even as a finance director. I think the biggest change for us was the price deregulation era, post-2015 July. Before July 2015, all oil marketing companies were supposed to sell at the same price. Now, when all oil marketing companies are supposed to sell at the same price, then brand recognition is an important determinant of where customers go to. So you had lots of local players, all right, but when you are competing with multinationals or large state institutions in the oil space who were pioneers in that space, and you have to sell at the same price, it was very difficult for you to penetrate in terms of market share. The only way you can do that is to actually spread around the country. Mm-hmm. But post-2015 July, price became an important factor in terms of customer choice. But Ghana also has a history of quality problems in terms of oil marketing companies. So if you just go with price as your banner, you may not necessarily succeed, because let me give an example. In the oil industry today, we have over 210 or 15 oil marketing companies. Apart from about 5 or 6 of the oil marketing companies, everybody is competing on price, basically. All the structure, the structure we have is really price, and a few doing, differentiated products sold at higher prices. Now, if you want to be number one in Ghana, and you want to do that through affordable fuels, you'll be confronted with the question of quality. Yeah. So you need to put in a structure that responds to quality, so that when a customer gets to your station just to try your products, they see the difference and come back again. So you can get a customer to visit your station on price, but what makes you keep the customer is the quality of the product. So in about 2020, we decided, and I've written about this, we decided to look at what happened in the UK market when they went price regulation in the 1970s, and noticed that a lot of oil companies collapsed because of the fierce competition. And because of that, we knew that if we were going to survive this market post-price deregulation, we needed to do more than just compete on price. Mm-hmm. Price was always going to be a factor that allowed the customer to come to you to sample. But if the customer comes and there are quality issues, the customer is not coming back, and their word of mouth is going to destroy your brand. So when we decided to go on price, in fact, we were the late comers to the price game in Ghana. Anybody in the industry would have noticed that until 2021, July, Star Oil always priced its products almost comparative to the main players at the time. We were very much pricing at a high price. But behind the scenes, we were putting in the systems that would deal with costs and leakages, because we needed to do something that was sustainable. So first thing is, you know your customers, the large chunk of the customers want affordable fuels, but they want it with the same quality as they get anywhere else, but affordable. But if they want quality fuels, affordable, they also want it in the right quantities. Mm. They don't want to be cheated because you've given them an affordable fuel. They don't want to be cheated. So you have to put in systems that ensure that the customer doesn't get cheated at the pump as well. Mm. And we also noticed from our research that customers also wanted to be heard when they had issues at the station. So we put in place a customer complaints hotline to make sure that if there's any service issue, we get to hear about it at management level. And this is the customer complaints hotline in Star Oil. Every manager in Star Oil is on that hotline and knows everything that goes on. Any report that comes, I get to hear. Every manager gets to hear, and we resolve it together as a team.
ASAP?
ASAP.
I see.
ASAP. Now, so you are dealing with quality, you are dealing with affordability, you are dealing with right quantities, and you're also dealing with hearing from the customer when they have issues. We put in an investment, a heavy investment in CCTV. I don't think anybody in the industry has invested that much in CCTVs at their stations. I think on average, we tend to have about 14 cameras at every station. Some are solar, some are, all of them are active. And we have a robust system for ensuring that downtime is reduced to a very low extent. Now, what this has done is that we're able to monitor service delivery. We've had complaints from customers. If a customer calls the hotline, I feel I've been cheated. The first thing we are doing is somebody is pulling the CCTV camera footage for the transaction. An auditor is checking the flow rate of that transaction. When did the dispenser start? When did it end? The customer says, I bought 200 cedis. Was the the flow rate of the dispenser suggestive of a 200 cedi transaction or it's a 100 cedi transaction. If we get that footage, we're able to now contact the customer, show the customer, look, based on this footage, we think you got the right quantity. So drive around a bit and come back to us and let's be sure that you got, sometimes customers come back and say, yes, after a while my gauge went up. We've also had cases where indeed customers were cheated by a rogue attendant. What do you do when you have such a situation? You show it to the customer and the customer realizes that, oh, you have systems to check this. And because of that, you compensate the customer. The customer becomes a loyal customer. So we've had, especially post-2021, we've had a journey where you may have observed, every year we doubled our sales volume. Every year we doubled our sales volume. It wasn't just because we were expanding in terms of network, but we're getting more customers being loyal and through their word of mouth, recommending us to their friends and family. So you cannot sustain a doubling of your volumes every year if your quality is wrong, right? So I'll talk about how we...
But I want to check, I want to find out from you whether for you price was the push factor or there were other things that rose you from nowhere to the top 5 now to the market leader. Over the years we've had calling another company a market leader and now the tables are turned. Was price the major determinant here, the push factor here, or there were other things that moved you from nowhere to this new level?
I think when you look at gasoline markets all over the world, I mean what we call petroleum retail markets, anytime petroleum retail markets are price deregulated, because it's a commodity that is very difficult to differentiate, price often becomes the go-to factor for customers. Gasoline markets are very hard to differentiate. Whether it's in Europe or in Americas, gasoline markets are very hard to differentiate. It's well known. Now, when you're a local player with the kind of industry background we had, price was always going to be a good starting point. But price, like I said, cannot retain you, the customer, if they have bad experiences with quality and even quantity, right? So to be sustainable in terms of pricing at low prices, you need to put in systems that ensure that you are the cost leader. You can't just go to the market and sell at affordable prices and make a loss. Your cost structure must be such that when you sell at those low prices, you still can make a lot of profit. And we have been very transparent with publishing our tax figures and even from the transparency we show in terms of our tax figures, any accountant can actually tell what profit we are making from the tax figures we disclose. And that anybody who looks at those figures we post out there will be able to tell you, if they monitor the market well, be able to tell you that Star Oil is more profitable than some of the people you are talking about, right? So pricing low, you can do your research. Pricing low is not necessarily equivalent to making losses. What we've done is use price like most gasoline markets do. Most competitors, if you go to the UK, and I think I've written about this before, in the UK, what we call the hypermarket network of Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, etc., they only own 10% of the retail network in the UK, but they do 40% of the volumes. Why? Because they are the most affordable in the UK. So affordability in gasoline markets is essential because it's an essential commodity and it's very hard to differentiate. You can try all the marketing gimmicks, but when you get a competitor who is affordable, who does all the quality things, all the things that has to be done to give you quality products, and also put in the controls to ensure customers are not cheated, you are going to find it very difficult to differentiate your product from the market. And which is what is beginning to happen in Ghana. The reason Star Oil is the market leader today is because we fixed not just price, we fixed quality, we fixed quantity, and we also fixed our interaction with customers. And these are all tangible things you can see. I can talk about what we've done in each one of these places.
So I get from you, Tieku, that price was a breakthrough, but sustaining or being there is not just about price, but there are other tangibles. Can you also help me with the other tangibles as well that for you drove this this brand to this level as well.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. The most tangible thing to make a company like Star Oil very sustainable is to make sure your customers are loyal, isn't it? Your customers will only be loyal when the product is quality, isn't it?
Yeah.
In Ghana, the biggest challenge with quality of fuel is not the source of the fuel. All the products that come into Ghana come in through the ports, unless they are smuggled in, which is a different thing altogether. But the products that come in go into the same tanks at Tema or in Kumasi or in Takoradi. All the oil marketing companies go through those queues and take the products. The biggest challenge with quality is where you have a rogue truck driver who takes the product from source, quality product from source, somehow goes to an adulteration site, and there are sites like that in Tema, and either siphons some of the products or adulterates in the process. Then you have a quality issue. So how did we tangibly fix this problem? To fix this problem tangibly, you cannot afford to pay your drivers peanuts. Star Oil has over 150 drivers and over 150 trucks. We did something that no other oil marketing company has done in the industry. We basically made the pact with our drivers and said, if you bring the product intact, we track your journey and we realize you didn't go off course and you deliver the quantity. And luckily at the time we're implementing this policy, there was also something Ghana was doing called a temperature compensation policy, which means that when a truck driver takes the product at the depot, they are compensated for an additional top-up for temperature variations. If you bring that into the stations, we will give you 50% of that temperature compensation, so that you don't have to go anywhere to steal the product or even in the process adulterate the product, which is sometimes a problem in the country. And our drivers bought into it. So tangibly, if you find a driver going from a depot to a Star Oil station, you are at peace that the product that left the depot arrives at the station intact. The other issue about quality is the station level. Our underground tanks are buried, and sometimes you can have water leakages into the underground tanks. But that's where monitoring becomes essential. If you have a situation where the station manager is not trained to monitor for potential water leakages, or you don't do routine pressure testing of the tanks, routine calibration of the tanks, tank cleaning, you can have quality issues. If you want to be number one and you want consistency of quality, these are things you must be doing as a routine. And that's what we do here as a routine. Quality also can be reinforced by our CCTV projects, isn't it? Yeah. Because one of the biggest headaches in our market, which I'm sure you would have seen Comac talk about, is potential for third-party dumping at our stations, right? There are some players who, like I said, can smuggle in products, and if they're able to dump those products at your station, then you are not just selling the product you took from the port, from the depots, but you're potentially selling products that are adulterated or of substandard quality. So you want to make sure that your station cannot be a dumping site for any of those products. And our CCTV systems ensure that you can't have that. In fact, there are things in every OMC should have, like an ATG underground. It's not working in most of our OMCs. From the last Comac report we saw, a lot of filling stations have the ATGs installed to monitor the stock underground so that nobody can come and dump product at your station without your knowledge. But most of the ATGs are not working. We insist, and we are always in touch with the Rock Africa guys to try and make sure that our ATGs are working, because it's part of our quality monitoring process. So these are things that are tangible. That is why when you come to our station, you become a loyal Star Saver. You don't want to go back anywhere because you see consistency in terms of quality, not just the price.
Tieku, help me. I don't know the module, and that's why this interview like this will help us appreciate that. I know you don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you don't, do you own all the service stations? Because some of these things has to do with ownership to instruct and get these things
Yes.
done,
Yeah.
whilst others are dealing with third-party dealers
Yes.
in terms of these service stations.
Service station.
What has been the module when it comes to these service stations,
Okay.
and how are you able to insist that if you're going to sell my product, these are the terms?
Yeah, thank you. I think, like I said, price was only the beginning, but before price, we had already started a change in our model. Way back in 2018, we had started moving away from stations that are managed by owners, or who we call dealers.
Dealers, yeah.
So Star Oil, as you see it today, with 254 stations, every location you visit is managed directly by the company. Every manager at the station, every attendant is an employee of the company. The reason for this was because, again, the quality challenges in Ghana sometimes are driven by dealers. There are dealers, and not all dealers, I must say. There are dealers who are decent people, but there are also dealers that are rogue dealers. Dealers who keep a third tank at their station to receive these products. And so when you have these type of dealers in your network, you cannot guarantee quality. And so we realized that to be able to reinforce our quality agenda, we needed to take control of the station. So yes, Star Oil owns nearly 100 of our stations are owned by us. We also lease a number of stations from the dealers, and we also have dealers who willingly handed over the stations to us to manage for them. They stay away, they don't get involved, and then they are paid their commissions at the end of the month. But we believe that having 100% company control in terms of running the outlets is a key factor in quality control.
How does that influence your overhead cost? Because again, I stand to be corrected.
Yeah.
Somebody earlier told me that
Yeah.
Star Oil has come this far because they've had to manage a very
Lean
cost structure as a business, and therefore you can survive with this business with managing a lean structure.
Yeah.
Having a controlling interest, a controlling stake, a controlling management, and all the rest comes at an extra cost. And educate me. How are you managing all these things, but also dealing with overhead costs here, which in the long term or in the short term has an impact on your bottom line?
Yeah. You're right. I mean, the biggest factor when you take out a dealer from a station, running a station for you, is that you assume certain costs. One of them being employee cost, for example, becomes higher because you are directly employing attendants, etc. But then the missing factor is that when a company manages a station with the kind of software we use, which proprietary, we built it in-house to be able to control our stations, we were able to block out a lot of the losses that were occurring under dealer management. Before we switched to this model, we constantly had underground shortages, right? Our driver model that I explained to you now leads to underground overages. Before we switched to this model, you would constantly have problems with consistency of quality. Now, if you're able to solve quality problems and you're able to block financial leakages, you get a returning customer and you also get revenues going up. Now, higher revenues block leakages in terms of cost and so on, leave us with a lot more to be able to spend, right? What we do here is currently we pay close to 3 times what an attendant is paid by the industry.
And you've been able to sustain.
And yet we are leaner than the rest of the pack. If you do your research, you would find that if you talk to any attendant and you ask them, which OMC do you want to work with? Most likely you will hear Star Oil. If you talk to any truck driver, fuel truck driver in Ghana today, and ask them, which OMC do you want to work with? You would hear Star Oil by far as the #1 choice of OMC to work with. The reason is because we've blocked loopholes that were big financial losses to the company, turn them into sometimes even revenue earning points, like underground shortages becoming underground overages. Is enough to pay all our attendants. I can tell you that for free.
If I come back, I'll be getting from you about the sustainability of this model, the sustainability of the price model, because there are some who said that we've seen this before. This is PM Express Business Edition, engaging the Chief Executive of Star Oil Ghana on understanding the module that has brought them this far as the market leader in the industry. When we come back, let's dig more into the price, the sustainability, this module, and whether 5 years' time we'll still see them on top. This is PM Express Business Edition. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we look at how a company, an oil marketing company, is actually surviving this industry as a local firm, and also understanding that business module that has gotten them to the market leader in an industry made up of international or global giants that are playing on all these local turf. As I engage the Chief Executive, Mr. Philip Tieku, understanding the module, the branding, and all that. Mr. Tieku, help me out also when it comes to the whole distribution chain as well. And sometimes you need to have a little understanding of how complicated this industry is. One blip in terms of even, let's say, Lacan issues could have a cascading effect of product shortage and all the rest. How have you been able to also survive this space from transport to distribution, to bulk purchase, and to ensure that when that person drives to your service station, product is there, and all those things? Because I know the Lacan issue will happen, but we'll look at that later as well in terms of,
thank you. I think you are right. Product reliability is also a big factor in our industry. The last thing you want to have as a retailer is to have a stock out. And when you are a player like Star Oil that has, I mean, at the moment we are either the number one in terms of sales per location, the size of sales per location, or number two. Usually we flip between number one and number two. When I talk about sales per location, I'm talking about if you take our 254 locations and you divide our volumes by that, you would find that on average our stations sell more than, like almost more than every other OMC. So our throughput is quite high. And that means that if you don't plan your sourcing well, you are at high risk of running out at some of your locations. Again, like in everything in Star Oil, we've used IT we've sort of automated our sourcing and distribution network. So we have centralized planning for all our stations. We don't have people placing, or our managers placing orders before they are supplied. It's somebody's job to use IT to check their reorder rates. And anytime you are getting to reorder levels, the stock is automatically dispatched to a station. We currently source all our products on competitive tender basis. Again, it's essential if you are going to be a cost leader in terms of this business. You can't afford to buy from a monopoly. You want to do competitive tendering for your sources. So we do bi-weekly competitive tendering. That ensures that we get our products supplied by the biggest players in the market and also at very competitive rates. But once we source the product, centralized planning ensures that all our stations get the products they need at the right time to prevent stockouts. The trucks would, like all OMCs, the truck will load from the depot, and often we keep a lot of stock in transit because of the high rate of sales. As you know, if you are going to move a truck from Tema to, say, a location in Wa, which we have a place in Wa, you must account for 2 days of travel time, etc. So we do a lot of centralized planning to make sure that we don't run out of. In fact, we've had a time when tanker drivers were on strike for 5 days last year. None of our stations ran out during that period. Because every time, we are not just having stocks underground, we are also having almost 5 days of stock in transit, constantly on the road to the station. It requires a lot of centralized planning and to make this work efficiently and effectively. Yeah.
What do you tell those who say that you have competed on price, and that has been your selling point? One can even talk about recently attempts, and some would argue that this whole price floor thing was targeted at Star Oil. I can be disputed, but that's the industry rumor and the gossip.
I think
Or I could
when
be
the
wrong.
when the price floor was instituted, I openly wrote against it because I don't really believe that in a competitive market there's any need for a price floor or even a price ceiling, because you want players to be able to operate their businesses efficiently. Unless the regulator believes that the players in the industry do not have the right governance systems, if that's an admission of poor governance systems in our industry and the fact that some players need to be protected or they make bad decisions around their pricing, then that's fine. But I wrote against it in principle that in a competitive market you can't have a price floor. But there's a price floor. I think the only benefit with the price floor in our environment is that there are indeed some players who, I mean, about a week ago, you saw a GRA news article where some exported products were diverted and sold in, or were going to be diverted and sold in some of our stations locally. When people avoid taxes on a product, they are able, or they want to sell it very quickly. And the taxes on a fuel today is about 4 cedis, 27 pesos. Now,
Per liter, right?
per liter. For gasoline. So if you have somebody diverting a product meant for export into Burkina Faso, selling it at the filling station in Ghana, already they have a 4 cedi 27 peso margin to play with. Such a person can drop the price to ridiculous levels, and that can have its own effects. So in that respect, that's the only area I see the price floor as playing some role. If such a person should get their hands on those products, they may not be able to sell lower than the price floor. But otherwise, I really don't see the benefit of the price floor.
Because at that time, the regulator was arguing that it is something that some of these OMCs will not survive. When they go this way, they might be sitting on a time bomb. And in future or the near term, that company could go down as well.
Yeah, but my response to that is simple. If the regulator argues that way, then it's an admission that we have a lot of players in the industry who don't know their business or are not able to analyze their business in terms of costs and revenues and profitability, etc. But if that's the case, then something has to be done about that, because the Bank of Ghana is not going to license clueless banks, right? It's going to make sure that these are banks that have good governance controls, etc. So if they are making certain pricing decisions, they know what they're about. As I'm sitting here, at the time the price floor was introduced, nobody could say that Star Oil was not profitable. We were profitable. We were not selling at a loss.
Have you defeated the principle? And I remember way back when this price regulation thing started about the fact that there were some school of thought that, you know, you're going to collapse this industry. You cannot price low to sustain as a business.
Reinvestments and so on.
The big players who were complaining that if you price low, there were product quality issues. Have you made nonsense quotes of that theory and those who projected that argument at that time when it comes to the price deregulation program?
I think the jury is out there. The large majority of customers are buying from Star Oil, and that's why we are number one. It's obvious that we are doing something very right. Our key strength is how we protect quality tangibly by the things we've done in the supply chain, how we ensure that customers are not cheated at the pump by using tangible means to investigate and ensure that our attendants cannot do that. And if they do that, there's evidence to show. And because of that, they will seldom do that. And also our ability to engage customers post-service and make sure that they have assurance that they've received the right product, the right quantity, etc. And if there are real issues, transparently engage them on. That, for me, is our strength. And I think if that means that we've made nonsense of the whole price versus quality issue, I think that should be...
Tieku, you've been in this industry for a long time. You know what happened when this price regulation was being pushed and all sort of things that were said about it. But I look at since 2015, years after that, what is happening right now. And some of these big players that have been kicked against it, some are now being forced to
price low.
The perception is that when you're pricing low, there might be issues about your product.
I think that perception is one that, unfortunately, historically in Ghana has been pushed by some marketing interest groups. But there's also the tangible aspect of that in the fact that historically we've had very poor corporate governance structures in the industry. And that is why you can get a smuggled product into a station, et cetera, and compromise on quality. So even though there's really, in principle, you can get perfectly good quality product sold at the prices that we sell at. In the minds of customers historically, the perception was that once the product is a low price, it means it's a low quality. That's what we've successfully bashed. Because you cannot be growing at the pace we are growing year on year, retaining your customers year on year, and be selling inferior products.
How sustainable is the Star module? Because again, you look back in the industry, we have seen this before about a brand or an ONC that was heavy on pricing. But later, we saw everything being more of a bust.
Yeah, I think I mean, in every industry, conditions change. Management must be versatile enough to ensure that there's timely response to changes in the environment. As we sit here today, the model we implement or we are operating at Star Oil is very sustainable. The numbers bear it out. We are more profitable than we have ever been. We are operating at costs far lower than our competitors because of the efficiencies that automation has brought, because of the losses that we've been able to cut out of the supply chain. As time goes on, I mean, we are in an industry where there's transition into cleaner fuels, etc. We will need, as management, to be responsive to that. The changes that are coming, we need to be able to respond to that. So we shouldn't be here as management of Star Oil and get caught out by changes in the environment. It's our job to study the environment, look at the competitive forces, how they are playing out, and respond properly. What we won't do as a company is become expensive in terms of our cost structure just because we are number one. We are number one as an industry leader. We accept
Isn't
that.
that a temptation?
But we will not.
Gotten there. After all, what again is there to lose? The next thing is that you've gotten there, you've made a statement. Well, let all that happen to happen.
Yeah, we've gotten there, but we are mindful of how we got there. We are mindful that we are in a gasoline market, whether it's in the UK, in the US, or in Ghana. Gasoline markets are price sensitive. We are not going to pack our overhead costs and become like an expensive OMC and then use that as an excuse for pricing higher. We are not going to do that. We are going to keep our focus. We are going to integrate into the supply chain even further. We have clear plans of having our own BDC. It's no secret. The whole industry knows about that. We have clear plans of backward integrating into having our own tank farm, so we have total control of our supply chain. All those will be done bearing in mind that we still have to be very competitive. So yeah, I mean, the industry is highly competitive, over 200 players. I think the only reason why we've been the ones growing at this pace, nobody else has grown at this pace, is because we've just responded right to the customer. We've just met the customer's pain points and dealt with those pain points. 5
years from now, 10 years from now, whether Mr. Tieku might still be around the movement to the board chairman to still tap into the brains, are we going to see Star Oil there as an indigenous? I mean, I remember those times in my finance class, they would say, why do businesses fail? And you realize that most of them here are the Ghanaian firms. They don't travel beyond sometimes generations. And I will not even do like generations. 10 years from now, will this brand survive this market where not everyone is playing by the rules? And we know that happens every day. Outwitting, shortchanging, trying to infiltrate the system, sabotage and all the rest. You can be a good person, you can be a good brand abiding by all the principles. But you think that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you can survive this market with this module?
I think I'm more than confident about that because our systems are designed to be very responsive to what's going on in the market. Our intelligence in terms of market information, etc., is very, very robust. I think 5 years, 10 years from now, you would see a Star Oil that is quite clearly by far the market leader. We expect, obviously, over time that our competitors will respond to some of the things we've done, and it's for the betterment of the customer. If our competitors fix their issues, fix their governance issues, quality control issues, after sales response issues, etc., why not? It becomes more interesting. The competition becomes more interesting. Right now, I think it's been a walk in the park for us. We've just been able to move from number 15 to number 1 in 4 years, basically.
And I saw the Kumak report, and I realized that how you've been able to even move so fast when it comes to volumes of products sold within some few years.
I'll give you an example. Between 2020 and today, we've grown our network from 85 stations to 254 stations. The logical thing to expect when a company is growing that fast is that their sales per location will drop. It's either you make mistakes with site selection, or you make mistakes with taking locations that cannibalize existing locations in terms of volumes. We've done this phenomenal growth, and yet our stations are selling the highest sales per location in the country. Generally, that's the case. The reason is because, like I said, we have intelligence systems and market research systems that allow us to make these decisions very scientifically. We did not select our site locations by sending somebody to the field,
or certain big man calling you.
Or certain big man calling you and telling you that I have a station.
This thing here because I have a company.
I have a shareholder that has a station in a location. He wanted to let us operate it. I told him, the location you have is a poor location. It doesn't meet our throughput per location requirement, so we can't take it. It's as simple as that. We will not take a station because somebody has given money to a field officer to influence them to join the network.
I mean, this is an industry that is capital intensive.
Yes.
Huge.
Huge.
In terms of investment and funding, other global brands that are in this space wouldn't suffer when it comes to that, and I stand to be corrected. I mean, you've had stints with all these international oil giants before. I mean, how are you being able to also compete with these brands when it comes to the bit about capital? Because they could have a patient capital stretch over 20 years from the parent company injected into it to compete and all the rest for very low bulk purchase of petroleum products. And that is where some are also surprised about how you've been able to do it when it comes to that particular space, competition on capital injection, having patient capital with these global giants, the Totals, the Shells, the Pumas and all the rest. Those who are doing well. How have you been able to do that?
No, I think if you look at the oil marketing landscape in Ghana, the vast majority of stations are actually not owned by the oil marketing companies. The vast majority of stations are owned by individual investors, right? Our model, even though it's company managed, we have a number of stations in our network that are individually owned. Individuals own them, and we take them and manage them on their behalf. So it's a way of pooling capital. We don't necessarily have to build every one of those stations ourselves. In fact, Ghana has an overbuilt filling station environment, if you ask me. What we've done is just being able to get the right partners to partner with us, either in terms of location, land, or fully completed filling stations. We have also, on our own, gradually built our own stations over time. So yes, we don't really need the large amounts of capital that is required to build these stations from scratch. We are relying on partnerships with other existing retail stations that come into our network, or partner with people who own land in expensive areas and build the stations and share profits. So that's one way we do it. But we also, from time to time, rely on our banks to do short-term working capital and maybe 5-year term loan interventions. But I would say that because the vast majority of stations within the country represent a pooling of resources by Ghanaians, individual Ghanaian investors, the need to actually put out a huge capital outlay is not as high as most people imagine. Another thing we've done is that we don't necessarily go after the most expensive locations. We are mindful of the fact that our company is riding on the back of quality and affordable fuels. So we will not necessarily go buying lands in expensive locations where we don't have enough patient capital to finance them. So you would find us in most locations that have significant population and traffic, but we will not necessarily make a decision to go to places where lands are, quoted in huge sums of dollars, etc. Because often it doesn't really lead to any higher volumes per locations in terms of sales. So we tend to be very, very, very smart about that. Those who have patient capital, they can potentially, deal with those locations and charge higher prices for them. We are mindful that we don't have a lot of patient capital. We are not also going to be charging expensive prices to recover those locations. So we try to stay in locations that we feel match our financial,
Has it been easy now compared to 5 years ago, and you being a finance person as well, getting the support, that debt support from the banks?
Yes.
Because 5 years ago, I know that you did a lot of presentations.
Yes.
Now are they running to you to finance those brilliant ideas?
I think I would say there's been a lot of interest from all the banks. In our difficult days, we only had GCB Bank, our national bank being one of our main financiers, was very, very supportive in that journey. But obviously, with our position in the market now, almost every single bank has knocked on our doors trying to do business with us. We've tried to stay very loyal to GCB and Stanbic Bank in particular because of the way they supported our growth from beginning, even in times that were very challenging. But yes, I think when it comes to capital, I wouldn't say we are in a place where we cannot attract the capital that we need. I think we are a bit more careful about the nature of capital that we are going to go for. We would definitely look at matching the right capital with the next levels of investment they're about to do, and make sure that we don't get it right. In terms of financing costs, we are quite a very low cost OMC as well, because of the way we utilize our financing. We do not want to be a high debt, high interest cost OMC, because that also translates into cost per liter at the pump. So I think when we benchmark ourselves against our competitors that are listed on the stock exchange, we see quite clearly that we have a very big strength in terms of financing cost per liter.
Let's look at governance, and let's look at, again, in terms of when success has made you friends. You talked about the stock exchange. Maybe it might not be a stock exchange, but is there any plan together with your shareholders and board to open up the business for some indigenous support in terms of equity and all the rest? So listen, you've come this far without those things. We are even more cautious now with sometimes a forceful takeover and all the rest.
Yes. No, I think it's definitely one of the options for our shareholders. The company has grown to this level, and there's a lot of interest from Ghanaians to participate in the success story. We are mindful of the fact that as number one OMC in Ghana, it helps a lot when we have a diversified ownership structure rather than just maybe 7 or 6 people being shareholders of the company. So it's definitely one of the things that will be on the table, especially as we look into our backward integrations into tank farms and all the things that we want to do even further down the stream. We are a transport company as well. We could go into national transportation, for example. So when that time comes, we will definitely be looking at the stock exchange to raise capital to fund that. And I believe at that time we would have demonstrated quite clearly to our financing partners that we know what we are about. We are not a flash in the pan type of company. We understand this business very well. We trade very openly. We trade competitively, profitably, and this will not be a flash in the pan story.
As you try and wrap up on this particular session of that interview before we go for a break. I mean, the bit about, and I remember Alex Mo told me once when he was the CEO of the National Petroleum Authority, he said that, George, if anybody tells you that we have a premium product, all the products are sold from one source. We don't sell lead fuel, it's time to be fuel. So
leaded fuel.
Yeah, so be careful how you take some of these marketing things and all those things out there. For you, looking at this industry again, how do you deal with the issues about those who throw the quality issue at you and say, oh, their products are not good. Look at some of their service stations and all the rest. And propaganda on through repeated a lot of times becomes the truth. How are you also dealing with this as you try to be on top? Because now that you've dealt with the pricing issue, the product quality will always come hunting you and ensuring that you convince people out there that, see, we sell the same product at that brand in East Legon airport.
No, I think you're right. I mean, you keep mentioning that it's price that has brought us here. I tend to disagree a little bit with that, but I mean, it's fair. I tend to disagree with price alone as the reason we are number one. The reason is because if we did not deal with quality, our annual growth rates will not have been what you see. For any company to grow at the rates that we've grown at and be at the level that we are playing at, when industry average station sales is about 100,000 liters and ours is about 300,000 liters, it tells you that we have returning customers and we have retained a lot of them because they haven't had problems with our quality. And we are confident with our quality because of the controls we put in the supply chain. In Ghana, like you said, all the products are sourced from the same point. Yes, there are OMCs that advertise about additives they add to the fuel to make them, either, detergents or performance enhancing, etc. Our response to that is that all that is well and good, but if you don't fix the quality issues that can emerge within the supply chain from the depot to the filling station level, you can do all that and still have quality problems. What we've done is to fix the fundamentals in the quality chain, such that the product you take from the depot is the product the customer is getting and is consistently of the right quality. So we are not very worried when people talk about the quality. What we are also saying is that our products are guaranteed quality consistently, and that is why we are number one. We could not have been number one if we were cutting the corners on quality. And because of that, customers will continue to try our products and will never go back to where they came from. And that is what will cause our volumes to continue to grow.
Okay, when you come back, I know you were an executive as well, the Chamber for Marketing.
Yes.
Get your thoughts on some interesting industry issues as well. This is PM Express Business Edition, engaging the Chief Executive of Star Oil Ghana as we try and do some understanding of the business module and also how do you survive in this industry as an indigenous firm, rising from nowhere to an industry leader. This is PM Express Business Edition. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we look at understanding the business module of a brand that has moved from outside that top 5 to the market leader in the industry. And also, how do you survive this space with all these global giants? Understanding the business module of Star Oil, engaging the Chief Executive of Star Oil, Mr. Philip Tieku. And he is the Vice President also of the Chamber of Oil Marketing Companies, and try and get his thoughts on some industry development as well. 2-week review of prices, you think is a good thing? Because there are some things that allow OMCs, whenever they think that it's good to change their prices within a day or two. There have been instances I said that some OMCs even within a day did about 2 or 3 times as well.
Yes, I think the pricing windows are, these days in practice, are not really tied down. We are allowed to review prices on a daily basis. I think that bi-weekly pricing is more like to serve as a benchmark or a guide for the BDCs to be able to lock in their quantities and FX for that period. But in general, in practice, BDCs keep changing their prices on a daily basis, and because of that, OMCs can change their prices on a daily basis. The only regulatory guidance for that is that you can't increase your price without informing the MPA at least 24 hours ahead of time. So you have to send an email notifying the MPA that you are about to increase your price to this level the next day. Apart from that, the guidelines allow you to drop your price without even advising the MPA. You can drop your price and advise them later, but you can't increase it without advising them. But in principle, you are allowed to change your price on a daily basis. And we are allowed to even price differently at different locations.
And you're doing that.
We are doing
see
that
at East Legon.
We do that.
And some other stations. The
Yes.
prices, why that price differentiation?
So again,
when it comes to the
yeah.
product being sold there? Because sometimes we do stories about the price, but I still see this price at different price being quoted. At
Yes.
this, but I have seen it before at
Yes.
your East Legon
Yes.
station, and sometimes the
Yes.
one outside East
Yes.
Legon in terms of the price codes.
Yes. Again, we are complying with the industry pricing guidelines. The MPA rules on pricing allow you to run promotional prices at certain locations. So as part of our pricing strategy, we look at various places, look at competitive dynamics in those locations, and where we feel it's necessary to run a promotion in those areas, we do that. So we keep moving that promotion around the country, and every station gets to benefit. But it's also a reflection of competitiveness of various locations. So that's why you see the differences there.
Do you think that the MPA should take a second look at this price floor, where some are saying that if we are supposed to implement the full price deregulation policy, regulators should get out of trying to indirectly influence price?
Yes, that has been my view. And last year when it was introduced, I wrote about it and I criticized the introduction of a price floor in a competitive market. So I will still stand by that there's really no need for a price floor. If the regulator, the MPA's view is that the price floor is necessary to protect the companies from outdoing themselves in terms of a price war, there are various ways the regulator can check that. The regulator has access to all the prices at which we buy from the suppliers. They have the tax rate, and they can tell whether we are making a profit or not making a profit on every single transaction that we enter on their portal. So there are ways the regulator can actually gauge profitability in the market. Price floor, I think, denies the consumer of market opportunities. For example, we've had a period when the CD suddenly dropped from 12 point something to about 10.5. Because of a price floor, I can't sell my fuel below 12, right? Without a price floor, the consumer will be benefiting because the FX rate now means that I can sell my product below the 12 CD mark. But the price floor for this window says that my gasoline cannot be below 12.06. And so because of that, the best price I can do at the pump will be 12.06, even when I can sell at 11.5 to my customers today. So you see how it doesn't benefit the customer, but the regulator's view is that they are here to protect both customers and players. My view is that make sure the players in the market have the right governance structures, have the right competency of people managing the business, and you don't have to get involved in their pricing decisions. They know what to do. Getting involved directly like that suggests that the players don't know what they're about. Is that the view of the regulator?
What do you make of the factors that are influencing the review for this particular window and what it says going forward? Crude oil prices are dropping. There were times when they were dropping and nothing was happening. We've seen the CD post some strong stability. And again, help me if I'm wrong, that if the projections are anything to go by, and I stand to be educated, this could be, if you look at the band, one of the biggest drops that we witnessed even for this year, or even for a long time as well. What do you make of the variables or the factors that are influencing the review for this window, crude dropping, and the almighty Ghana cedi's record appreciation, even for the month of October, now pushing these prices down?
Yeah, I think there are multiple factors that contribute to whether prices drop by 5% or 3% in our market. So often what you see is that our market is a competitive market. When you see a situation where FX and world market prices suggest that prices should go down by 5%, and it doesn't go down by 5%, maybe it goes down 1%. Often the reason is that there are either inadequate stocks at the depot, which means that only a few suppliers have stock. And when only a few suppliers have stock, you know the effect, right? It means that they get to control the rate of drop. So that's one issue. There's also another structural issue, which is even though we do pricing by windows, generally the BDCs in Ghana do what we call spot triggering. They come to you as an OMC and will find out today how much quantity you want, or for these 2 weeks. In our case, we do bi-weekly tenders. So the day I'm doing my tender, if FX has dropped and the world market price has dropped, they would then lock in the spot rates on that day. Now, if subsequently prices begin to go down, we've locked in already. So even though prices are going down, those who are buying cash on spot basis will have an advantage against us. Yeah. In some cases, we also have the opposite effect. We lock in and prices begin to go up. It means we have a price advantage. So even though you would see the average windows suggesting prices should go down or should go up, often it's more nuanced than that. There could be changes in terms of how much the percentage drops because of changes in terms of world market price subsequent to the average price. So our market is very dynamic and it's really spot driven these days more than anything else. So the averages are just a guide. Often you find that within those averages, a lot happens. Either there are stock shortages in the depots, which we've had a few in this year, or there are sudden changes in the world market trends following the average for the window. And that can make a lot of difference. Yeah. But I think in general, you should expect a drop. But I'm not too sure you'll get a 5% drop because of...
As a market leader, you lead in this space.
We will lead, but let us not be criticized for being too aggressive on price when, in fact, we are not always. Yeah.
Ghana has more than 200 oil marketing companies.
Yeah.
Do you think that the regulator should take a second look at this?
Yes. I think COMAC has expressed that view consistently. We have a real problem in the downstream oil marketing sector because it's become a place where licenses are issued generally on political allegiances, etc. So every government comes into power and suddenly you see new OMC licenses are issued. And often these are not, I actually support right of free entry because that's what makes the market competitive. I really don't support entry barriers. I like competitive markets. I like free markets. So my view has always been that, yes, allow for free entry. You can issue as many licenses as possible, but there have to be performance criteria. 5 years into your license, what are you doing in the market? If you are not doing anything in the market, the license should be revoked so that we get serious, genuine players to play in the market because the lack of proper governance systems amongst OMCs, a lot of whom are just running the business as if it's, something that is not what it's supposed to be, If we get the right serious players in the market, I think the customer will benefit, the consumer will benefit a lot. And some of the quality issues we face in the market are a direct result of these problems. Some of the third-party dumping activities are actually a direct result of the lack of players who are in for the long haul.
In terms of taxes, do you think that we should take a second look again, as in the taxes per litre, and then the taxes also on the oil marketing companies? Because you say it, I've had some of them see the judge, even when we went to open service stations, you don't see where these costs come from, just because you're an oil marketing company. Let's first look at the products. Should we take a second look at them when we all complain that we want cheaper products out there? And also on the business as well, because if the business feels that I'm being overtaxed, then I'll cut corners,
of course,
and all those things.
So I think you are right with the analysis. The taxes on the product at the moment are inching up to almost 40% of the product cost. If you buy fuel today at, say, 12 cedis, four cedis of that at least is taxes on levies. So it's quite a big chunk of the product price. As businesses, we recognize that the fuel sector is a very easy place for government to raise money because it's generally well controlled in terms of the way the architecture is set up. GRA plugs into the MPA database, and every liter you load, your tax bill will just come to you. So it's very easy for governments to raise money in our industry. And because we generally have a low tax threshold in terms of tax to GDP ratio, governments see this indirect form of taxation as one way to solve our problem. So we understand that. But we also know that taxes make the product more expensive. And anytime the product is more expensive, it leads to demand destruction. And because of that, the industry production is not able to grow at the rates that you're supposed to have them grow. So it's a two-edged sword. We recognize that taxes are important. But at the same time, we want to make sure that taxes do not become a significant part of the cost structure. Like you said, anytime taxes become a significant part of the cost structure, you then begin to see all kinds of illegal activities, tax evasion becoming a problem. So people now smuggling in products tax-free, people trying to use export products as decoy and smuggling them back into the country. So taxes themselves create a challenge for the industry. But we recognize their importance as well.
I mean, you've moved from number 13 to number 1. It didn't come easy. As a chief executive of a leader in this oil marketing space.
I think the challenge we have with the taxes is really on LPG. We now have a Ministry of Energy and Green Transition. LPG is the easiest bridge from fossil fuels into clean energy. But we have a substantial tax on LPG. Government introduced taxes on LPG because I'm told a lot of taxi drivers were switching to LPG because it was cheaper and more affordable. We are in an era where we are all trying to push the green agenda. I think there's a huge and strong case to be made that LPG taxes should be removed. I will support taxes on fuel increased and LPG taxes removed because it supports the green agenda. If taxi drivers are switching to LPG, so be it. It's cleaner and it's good for the environment. Why don't we support that? We are an LPG player as well. We do LPG, we do the other products. But we think that customers switching to LPG is good for the climate, is good for the environment, and government needs to look at that area. We can't just be talking green, 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 and then the easiest policy solutions like taking off taxes from LPG are not being dealt with.
It's always said that getting to the top could be easy, but sustaining it could be a very difficult thing.
Yeah.
For you as a chief executive of this brand, what gives you a sleepless night?
I think for me as chief executive of Star Oil, what gives me sleepless nights is it tends to be more external to Star Oil than within Star Oil. I get very concerned about the frequent surprises in terms of new players, dodgy players, which Comac has sort of, and the various illicit activities that tends to drive anti-competitive behaviors in the market. That's what drives me. That's what I get concerned about. How do we respond to a player that is being allowed to lift millions of liters of products, dumping them at existing stations, paying no overhead costs in running those stations, and reducing the revenues of players, legitimate players in the industry? How do we respond to that? We are comfortable to some extent because we have significant controls around our network that prevent third-party dumping. But how do we, if we start having players dodging taxes, as we've heard, that these days people are beginning to call about having export products and so on, if those players start becoming active in the market and have 4 CD tax advantage as a subsidy, a Star Oil cannot compete with that player. That player will be far cheaper than a Star Oil because we have to pay the taxes. And that can give me a lot of sleepless nights.
So Tieku, as you wrap up on this discussion again, how tax compliance is your business?
We are very, very tax compliant. As you know, we are a private business. We don't even have a responsibility to publish our taxes. But this year alone, as you can see from our taxes that we've paid, we are on course to pay in GRA almost 30 million Ghana cedi, based on our self-assessment that we've done for the year. Could be more by end of year. We are also a major contributor. We pay our taxes. We've never defaulted in terms of our petroleum taxes and MPA levies. We have an excellent record with MPA and GRA. In the industry, there are some that actually have to pay their taxes to GRA upfront when they are buying the products. There are some OMCs that are on cash and carry basis. Star Oil has always been on its own self-recognition. We lift at the end of the month, we file our reports and we pay. We've never defaulted in that exercise, consistently. The same with MPA. We are always on, if you ask MPA, you ask GRA, they'll tell you Star Oil consistently delivers on its petroleum tax obligations. Corporate tax, we are a big contributor. We expect to become a very big contributor in terms of corporate taxes, even in the years ahead, because we are becoming more profitable by the day.
Tieku, have you sacrificed number one for profitability?
The data shows that we haven't. In fact, we are more profitable today than we've ever been as a company. And that's the reality.
Tieku, I appreciate your time so much. This has been, and I'll be coming back again when the numbers
Thank you so much. Thank you. I would love to have you again. In 5 years, we'll do a review.
This time I won't struggle to get you because you're number one.
You will find me very easily.
Okay, this has been PM Express Business engaging the Chief Executive of Star Oil Ghana on industry development, understanding their module, and also how do you play in this space where industry giants have the capital muscle and financial muscle to outweigh you and all. This has been PM Express Business Edition. Have a great day.